The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision.
Welcome to How to Money with Cole and Bailey. I'm Cole.
And I'm Bailey.
We're financial advisors at Full Swing Financial, where we coach people every day on their money.
Each episode, we cut through the noise and focus on the financial decisions that actually matter.
Our goal is simple, to help you feel more confident and more in control of your money.
Let's get into today's episode. We are back. Cole, if you watch us on YouTube, Cole's a little tanner than he usually is, so please don't watch because I'm looking paler than normal. You know, this weather is not beautiful in Iowa. That's where we're located. So.
Yeah, we had the kids on spring break trip, and I would say we went on a cruise. Cruise went fine, but flights both to our destination and from were a nightmare. We had cancellations, adjustments, changes, but nevertheless made it back. Glad to be back into some routine. And we've got, I think, like 70 on Friday. It negative wind chill.
School was closed Monday. School was closed Monday due to bad weather, and now we're gonna have 70 on Friday.
Classic bipolar Iowa weather there. So, and it's St. Patty's Day. None of us have green on in the room.
I'm in black.
Yeah, I would say I always miss St. Patty's Day, but
people drinking their green. I wonder how much money is spent in green beer today. Well, maybe Peter will research that for us while we get into it. So really interesting. I was thinking about this. So the episode today, I can't take any credit. So Matt at LPL approves all our podcasts. So we can't just come on these podcasts and say whatever we would like, which I'm not saying there's bad influencers on.
Shout out Matt. Having to listen to all of our podcasts.
And he actually, it was great. We were making some changes to the podcast, evolving it. And he was like, hey, these are 4 episodes I would love to hear. People would love to hear. And I was like, oh, I appreciate that feedback. So anyways, Peter has to record it. Matt has to approve it. If there's changes, Peter has to make them. So there's a whole process. So shout out to Peter and Matt for everything you do.
Production team.
Yeah, but since we're fiduciary, since we're licensed, there's some people on podcasts that don't have the same requirements. They can just record, release. Unfortunately, ours take a little more steps. So shout out to Matt for all you do on that. But we're going to talk about the psychology and emotional side of money today. And Cole Jaskey loves talking about emotions.
Well, it's part of almost all of our conversations at some point. When you start digging into goals or the reasoning behind maybe people's decisions or thought process, a lot of times there's a lot of emotion involved in that.
I definitely take it very, I don't even know what the word is for. I don't undermine what we're doing in people's life. Like money touches everything. It's so emotional, whether that be the death of the family, someone's sick and you need funds, or the fear of not retiring. Yes, like not understanding it. Like everyone I talk to, there's some sort of emotion involved in the process. And I don't think people realize how much money touches everything and how much emotion comes to that.
I think this would be an underestimated part of our job.
Yes.
Is how much
you always say I'm the therapist.
The emotional or behavioral finance side comes in. Because I think when people say, what do you do? They just think numbers, right? Everything's, monetary. You can measure everything by numbers, but in reality, it's like there's so much more, and we go so much deeper.
The other day, ladies like, well, yeah, you do accounting. I'm like, oh, like that's what they
they assume.
I'm not saying there's obviously a very mathematical side to financial, but we feel like the people who are most successful, and it's statistically proven behavior. It's a behavior trait. So most people assume financial success comes down to intelligence, understanding the market, understanding what to picking
the right stocks,
understanding the market. And I always tell people you can understand this, but more importantly, we just need to participate in what everyone's doing. So financial outcomes are largely driven by behavior, patience, and emotional decisions. How many times do we have people when the market's down? It's been a little rocky last
2 weeks.
Yep. A lot going on in the world, a war, but the emotion, like, should I sell out, or, oh, should I wait to do this, or, oh, are you like, I think we get some rhetoric of that conversation all the time, daily.
Many, many times. I would say there's always that. I think when there are major events in the world, or whether it's political or war situation like we are right now, everyone's first jump to conclusion is, do I need to make a change? Should I make a change? Oh, I have to make a change.
Is the market going to crash?
Yeah, and that's and statistically, almost every time there's some major event, life event, you're best to just stay the course and be patient and kind of tune it out.
I was just thinking that the world is never going to be immune to world events. Like, look
always gonna
at
happen.
History, 2000. You know what I mean?
There's always a change of the political environment. There's always a concern that someone is on one side. We're always going to be some type of security concern.
Yes, there's always conspiracy theories. That's why I thought you were going down that rabbit hole.
Yes, definitely conspiracy theories.
No one's ever going to be immune to that in their lifetime. So we're going to talk about things that emotional behavior and how to stay, calm and successful in the market and all these things. So we have a good example of two people, and I'm going to let you read it off because I hate reading off scripts.
Yeah, these are the classic, just, being in the market and the steady returns, right? And knowing what you're doing. But it's just an example of someone, that invest $10,000. So you're going to look at two people. They each invested $10,000 over 30 years. One made 10%. They rode the market,
rode the roller coaster
all the way out. Didn't touch it, just kind of out.
So what we're saying is, during downtimes, they didn't say, "Oh, move me to a safer investment, and then when I feel like it's safe, I'll get back in."
Speculating, right? They were trying to time speculate in and out. They just said, "Hey, let's ride the waves."
Yep.
That return, that 10,000 over 30 years, turned in 174,000. There was no new no new contributions, just one time $10,000. You rode the wave, rode the S&P 500 for 30 years. Use that same example of 10,000, 30 years, but say you got a 6% rate of return. So you
were selling.
You jumped out, or you got concerned when, maybe COVID happened, you jumped out of the market, or the financial crisis, whatever it might be. Generally when people, and this is the thing, and let's get to the dollar amount before I go too far, but that was $57,000 what that turned into. So think of that big difference of just 4%
on a little amount.
Yes, on a little amount. And again, both good rates of return, just puts in perspective of where you're at on your investment outlook. But a lot of times when people are making the decisions, generally the event's already happened, right? So that's the downfall, is like, you can't let the event or situation, right? You're very reactive in that, right? You're reacting to something that happened, and generally there's going to be some good or bad emotion tied to that. Mm-hmm. So generally I always, and I try to practice this. This is like think of something that you can do or put into practice is, set a time limit if you are very emotional to something. Say it's a major purchase. Let's just use, because it's easier to put this on a major purchase. Is like, I'm buying a new car. I really want that new car, but you're like, God, do I really need it? You're kind of having that, and say it's a Friday, right? We love our car salesmen, but they love to take the vehicle home on a Friday.
Yeah.
Just try it out, because they know the psychology.
It's like trying the wedding dress on you can't afford.
Yeah. So, but have some type of limitation of like, I'm not making a decision for 5 days or 3 days or 2 days or whatever it might be, to where you can think about it. Because a lot of times if you make that snap decision, you think on it 24 hours later, you're like, man, I wish I wouldn't have did that.
Yes.
Right. Or generally happens in the market all the time, where we have a really negative day, and someone jumps out or whatever it might be. You might get out, and then the next day, the political environment, something changed drastically overnight that no one anticipated, and you get all those returns back, and now you're the one that sat on the sidelines, and you caught all the down and none of the up. Right?
And this is why financial success is psychology. It is understanding your emotions, because the biggest financial mistakes we see are people who happen when emotions take over, when they sell out, when they purchase that thing they're not supposed to maybe be in their budget. Like, emotions are very powerful. So this is why I want everyone to understand. A lot of financial success is not knowledge. It is behavior. It is like the consistency of investing. It's the consistency of talking through the emotional pullbacks of a market. It's staying in the market when it doesn't feel comfortable. It's the little things, and it's a behavior thing. We're doing this over and over and over.
I think having a plan, right, is such a, will have such a positive impact on your emotional decision making, when you feel like, okay, I do know kind of where we're heading. I have an objective. I have, here's kind of where I'm going. I've maybe laid it out in a financial plan or whatever it might be. You're going to be able to make more sound decisions, or be like, okay, that 3-4, that movement's not going to make or break me. Yeah. So let's be patient, and ride the wave out.
Why do you think people struggle to stay consistent more than actually learning about money? Like, what do you think that is? Because I literally just had a call yesterday with a new client on board, and she's like, I start a budget, I get really excited, then I stop. I start to learn about the market, and then I stop. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, that's why I think it's more behavior, because it's just like, any new thing you're learning, like a new hobby, running. If you have never ran before and it seems very overwhelming at first, so you just don't do it because you start, you know what I mean? But if you just consistently do a mile for a week, then 2 miles, you know what I mean? It's like, you just kind of have to break through. Why do you think that is?
When we were talking about this, I wrote down 2 words: discipline and shame.
Ooh.
I think shame. Some of it is just self-discipline. There are some people that are just maybe don't have the will, or you'll find every excuse in the books not to reflect back on themselves.
Ownership.
So, and there's no ownership, in their personal financial situation. The second would be shame. I think there's especially, lower income or people that have never saved or didn't come, didn't have a family history of understanding money, right? They weren't around it, aware of things, they're in their adult life and they're like, I've never been exposed to savings or retirements until now. And sometimes those people are just, like, oh, my family never did it. I'm going this direction. I just, I don't know. I'm not comfortable. And they'll go that route. I think those are, too, obviously so many other factors there, but
I'm so glad you said the word shame, because I think clients are very vulnerable with me, especially female clients. Like once a week, I just don't understand it. I don't get it. I don't understand the market. It's scary. Like, I'm like, no, you could easily understand the market. You just have never been. It's the shame of like, they rather just say, I don't know, I don't understand, than just like try to learn about it. Does that make sense? Like, and try to have a conversation. But with that shame really goes into our next topic. So that's why I'm glad you said why people avoid talking about money. So money remains one of the biggest social taboos. I think, we're probably on the other spectrum where we're so used to talk. Like, I'll ask people, I'm like, oh, what do you make? What do you invest? And they're like looking at me like, wow, I'm like, even like my friends were over the other day.
We ask the tough questions. Yes. I think that's an underutilized thing of working with an advisor, or like a team like us is we are going to ask the tough, like, well, you made $150,000. Where did that money go? Right. And because we got to know, or
where's it going, Bob?
And sometimes that's the reality of people when they actually have to say it out loud. Right. There's a difference of that, of like, you've heard that of like looking in the mirror and actually saying your goals. Like there's a difference of like, just thinking it.
Naming it. Yeah. So according to the American Psychology Association, stress in America is still consistently ranks as the number one source of stress for Americans.
Money.
Yep. Money consistently ranks at the number one source of stress, which I completely agree with. But at the same time, a study at Bankrate found that many Americans say they rarely discuss their finances openly with friends and family. Don't you think that's interesting? How many clients do you have? I'm very empowering my clients too, is like, hey, you don't have to tell your kids what you have, but if you're going to leave them something, you should talk about it. Like, let's, you know what I mean? Or, hey, if you didn't do well with money, let's talk about it so the next generation doesn't have to catch up. You know what I mean? I'm always like, talk to your friend and talk to your family, like but how can you make more money? All that type of stuff.
I think this is, again, kind of built around that shame
piece, that's right?
Because no one really knows if you're in a peer group, and you're like, well, if I start being vulnerable and sharing, talking about money or asking questions, I'm like, well, he doesn't, then you're assuming people think you don't know or whatever it might be. But I do think that's, there's the misery loves company type thing, but whether it's good or bad,
you surround.
It's good or bad. It is a good thing to talk about, and like, not most people's problems, like someone else has that problem, right? And probably in there's, hey, I'm drowning in debt or whatever it might be. Yeah. And a lot of times is like, again, talking through this situation or being vulnerable, saying, hey, I do want to fix this. Yeah. And that's like the huge part of the problem.
Yeah. But once you talk about it, these are why people who can hone these emotions in, the shame and stuff, and they start talking about, they are successful. Like couples who can sit down and talk about it and be like, hey, this is where we're at. We're not doing hot, but this is what we're spending. That's how you change the trajectory. Or even I had friends, they were over this weekend and they were just like, hey, I don't understand this, what you keep saying non-qualified. I was like, oh, I'm so, but they weren't embarrassed to ask. And I literally took a notebook and I was explaining a 401k and IRA. And I was like, ooh, this would be a good podcast, little video. But my point is, they're really successful with money at a young age, in my opinion. But that's because they're asking questions. Like they're okay. It's like, I don't understand it. It's okay. Like, and that's put them ahead in other areas financially, where I feel like people, like there's no gap in financial information there's no gap in information, any topic in our world, and social media. Yeah. Is there some bad and good information out there? But I mean, with technology, the information's out there. It's just because people get uncomfortable asking about, how do I do this? What does this mean? What's an IRA? What do you mean there's limit? You know what I mean? It's that shame. Like they just don't want curiosity. They need more curiosity.
You made me curiosity right now. I was thinking of this. Do you the majority of your friends, say your friends, non-clients, or like younger clients, let's say 40 and below, people that you know.
He's aging me because I'm going to be 37 this year.
I'm just more thinking of, they're more newly married, right? Do you think a lot of your friends, or like what percentage would you say plan together or plan separately? Because I think that has an impact.
I would say like 20% together and the rest.
Yeah, see, I think the younger people,
you think it's low?
I think the younger people are getting, the more likely they are to plan separately.
Yep.
Which I also think is tough because I look at, again, I handle the majority of our finances, but Chelsea's still definitely involved, and there's still that accountability factor of.
There's no hiding, there's awareness.
Of things back and forth of where we're heading. But I think the more you're separate, everyone knows of like, stories where, there's a spouse that's got, a shopping addiction or gambling addiction.
The amount of podcasts I listen to, and someone's like, yeah, my husband has 40,000 gambled. I didn't know. I'm like, what? Yeah. Luke can't even spend $10 without me.
I think there's like, that's where that gap is wide versus older people. I think you run across some people that don't plan together, especially maybe remarried or some, situational. But there's that accountability factor with your partner, I think, or your spouse or significant other that does have an impact in some of this too, on how successful you are.
I think it's because financial failure or not understanding the financial world feels like personal failure. And I think couples who maybe, like, we're lucky, right? One of us, Luke, Chelsea, you're welcome. We live, we live in this world. We talk about it all the time. Like, even jokingly, our friends were like, wow, Luke, you're lucky. What happened if Bailey died? I'm like, Cole Jassie's going to take care of it. We already talked about that. But he really does. Yeah. But then he joked. He's like, no, we go over the budget. We talk about like goals. She sends me the net worth statement every quarter. Like, he's like, I'm aware. Like, there's no, you know what I mean? But my point is, I think there's not someone in the relationship that's like understanding all of it. So instead of them both sitting down and being like, hey, I'm spending too much here, you're spending too much here, like there's that shame. Like, and I truly can't express. So I just had a couple come in last Friday or something, Thursday. We're working on a budget. We're working through some debt, and you can feel it a little bit, like the tension, because they don't know what each other's spending. They each have their own card. But
again, the tough questions, right? When you start going through a plan with someone.
Yes. Like, and I'm asking them like, well, is this really a need or a want? And I'm like, that's not a need. Like, you know what I mean? And they're kind of, because they're going to have to start giving, taking. But anyways, you will feel so much less shame by just talking about it, whether it's a couple. And I know there's people in relationships where maybe it's not a good relationship. So I understand a little separation for safety. But if you're in a good relationship where you trust someone, you absolutely need to take the shame out.
Especially if you've got common goals of like, hey, we want to get to here, right? We want to get to here where we can do this, and this, or buy this, or whatever it might be.
I think this, do you think people just wait too long? They're embarrassed to get financial help. Once they get it, and they look back and they're like, oh, I wish I would have done this sooner.
That's like the thing, like the saying that someone says, the most common, if I'm just stereotyping out there, is like, I wish I would have did this earlier. Yeah. And whatever it is, it might be saving, might be, paying off debt or went to school,
investing,
whatever it is.
It's always investing.
So many people say that, like, or wish I would have got my kids started earlier. I wish I would have. It's always earlier. It's because it's the time.
And then
I
hear this a lot. Well, we didn't learn this in school. School's over. You've been out of school. It's time to learn it. You know what I mean? Like, it's time to learn it one way or the other. We want to empower you. So anyways, we really went on a tangent on that one. Okay. Number 2, when net worth becomes self-worth. I think this is one of the biggest psychology traps. And I have completely fell into this. I think Keeping Up with the Jones falls into this. Like, money is tied to your lifestyle, your income. Like, it's your identity. Like, there's some, like, and you know this, people who make a lot of money, sometimes you never know, or have a lot of money, and they treat everyone the same. It's almost the opposite. People who feel like they have to present a certain way and be above, you know what I mean? But my point is, your net worth is not your self-worth. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's so easy to fall into this trap. And I've done the same thing where I'm like, the numbers aren't working the way I wanted them to work, or, and I think it reflects a lot of times of, the more you make, sometimes the more you spend. Yeah. And, I have found I'll fall into that trap at times of where I'm like, hey, we're probably, maybe flying first class instead of just coach or something like that. Like, where it's like, hey, it's a small decision, but ultimately you start compounding that over multiple years. You're like, well, that was a lot of dollars that we took out of maybe somewhere else.
And if I would have invested that or, done something different. But I think like people receive raise, like, okay, they were making 80, now they're making 120. Instead of feeling financially secured, like they get a nicer car, they travel more. It's like, again, it's like my identity is what I'm doing. My self-worth, like I have to be the person out there. People have to see me. And we had this in our last talk. I don't have the baddest, newest car right now. So it does. I'm like, people probably I instantly go, oh, do people think I'm not good with money because I don't drive a new, you know what I mean?
It's so wild because we get to see this on our side of the chair of we see couple A, couple B makes the same amount, right? And they're saving triple the amount as couple A. That happens all the time. And it's all the lifestyle decisions. Now, we ultimately don't want to tell people, hey, you can or can't do that, but you can't be the one that's, always upgrading cars, always going on vacations and have nothing saved for retirement. And then you're complaining because you can't retire, right? You can't have it both ways.
So spending is visible. We can all see it. We can see people take trips. We can see their cars. Wealth is invisible. Like you don't get to see what's in Cole Jaskie's, you know what I mean? Investment accounts. You don't get to see what's in, or your friends. Like, so that's my point is like a lot of people feel like their self-worth is tied to the visible worth of what's going on. So I don't know. It's just, that's definitely a tough one, I think, to overcome, just because most people compare themselves to other people and we're all in highlight reels in this world. You guys don't really post when you go on vacation now that I'm saying this out loud.
Yeah. Again, it's kind of those things.
No, I'm just thinking, you know what I mean?
It's, I always feel, there's like shame of me, sometimes guilt. I'm like, God, I'm going and
he's that advisor.
Then I'm not available. It's like one of those things. Like I always try to be somewhat available to clients because it is such an intimate thing that we deal with.
Yeah. And it's, that's a good point. But I do think like, let's say Peter goes on vacation and he posted he's shaking his head. No, he needs to post it all of it on Instagram, but that doesn't show you what debt Peter has. That doesn't show you his savings rates. That doesn't show you if he's financially stressed. So my point is like, I definitely think when you're financially secure, you feel more secure, but that's not what you're worth, right? Your self-worth is more like, how do you treat people? How do you show up at work? Like, are you making an impact today? And I think tying those together really, it's tough when you put your self-worth into your net worth.
Being a good partner, being a good parent, like those are the things that ultimately matter.
Yeah. Let me ask this question real quick and then
Okay.
Do you think comparing lifestyles is one of the biggest drivers of financial stress today?
Yes, I do.
I do too. I just wanted to see what you'd say.
I think it's one issue, and I wrote this down because I was like, I loved this question. I think everything is so easy to buy.
Apple Pay.
And the pace that we can make purchases is so fast now.
We were just talking about this.
It's like, it's even crazy how quick you can buy a car. I mean, if you got halfway decent credit, and like even if you don't have any money down, like you can go finance a car. Like I can go buy, like right now, have a brand new car. I'm like, well, I got an $1,800 car payment, but at least I got a brand new car.
Yep.
And then also, I think we've gone through really in our careers of being advisors, credit has been so easy to get.
Yes.
It's been very free
over
the last 10 years, especially with COVID when we had such low interest rates. A lot of people have 2%, 2.5% mortgages. And I think it was so easy to qualify for a credit card and stuff. And that's one of those things that just kind of crept when you're making those decisions. If like, okay, I can put it on a credit card, low interest for, or maybe zero interest for 12 months and then, try to pay it back or put this vacation on a card.
Now those people have got used to spending like that. And now the interest rates have swung back. They're a little high right now.
Oh, no, credit card rates are off the charts. Yeah. So
you got used to that lifestyle, right? And now it's coming back and it's like, that swing,
and some of it's just you don't really. I think like how great Amazon is, right? To be able to buy products and get it at your door the same day.
The next day.
You live in. I have friends in Des Moines. I think we're gonna have
filter.
We're gonna have this soon here, where some of the stuff's gonna be same day delivery. You buy it. But in Des Moines, I know there's a lot of times people are like, oh yeah, I needed toilet paper. I didn't want to go to the store, but Amazon delivered it.
There was a stat the other day. It's like people who spend more time on Instagram spend by a certain more percent because they're seeing all the Amazon ads, all that stuff all the time.
I've been a sucker to like I'm gonna be vulnerable here. My bugaboo is like golf training aids. So I'll buy like the random. I have like 6.
Of course it is.
That came from Facebook, like a Facebook
because it kept showing you that.
And I'm like, oh, I like that, and I bought one just recently. We can't even golf yet in Iowa, and I just bought it. I'm like, I've been wanting one of those, and I saw it on Facebook. Somehow it knew that I wanted that, and
your algorithm knows what you need.
It was like $19, so it wasn't a major purchase, but still, it's like impulse and quick.
I do because everyone is, I hear this all the time. How are they taking this trip? How are they? And I'm like, what do you mean how? Like anyone can do anything. I don't know. And I don't care what they're doing if they're putting on a credit. I mean, I do care as a financial advisor, but if they're not my client, I don't know what's going on behind that. I'm worried about, you know what I mean? Yep. But that's hard in our world because, again, you get ads, quick pay. I mean, vulnerable moment. I was going through my budget today. I was catching up. I was like, oh, Bailey and Stella's, which brings me to our sponsor. But I literally was like, wow, I've spent double at Stella's this quarter than I usually, you know what I mean? But so.
Shout out Stella's for the free coffee today.
Yeah, Stella's is our sponsor of this episode. If you don't know what Stella is, it's in Fort Dodge, Iowa. It's a local coffee bar cafe.
It's our favorite in the
office. Yeah, we go. But honestly, Abby's the owner. She's amazing. Great service, great environment. I would definitely check it out. They have build your bowls food. We eat there, drink there. They fuel us all the time.
You should go back. This is it'd probably cringeworthy for us to listen to.
I think Abby crushed it.
No, Abby crushed it. But it's always listen to yourself, an old podcast. But episode 30, back
May 2023.
Yeah, a while ago. But she tells her story and her resilience of going through COVID and trying to start a business at that time.
Yeah. So get your coffee, get your food. They
Shout
cater.
Out
Stella's.
This podcast is produced by Spin Market and Digital. Located in Fort Dodge, Iowa, Spin Market's highly skilled team can help you increase your market by updating your website, improving SEO, designing advertisements, and producing podcasts that will grab the attention of your market. Contact Spin Market today for all your digital marketing needs at digitalagent@spinmarket.com or call us at 515-302-8026. And to learn more, visit our website at www.spinmarket.com. That's digitalagent@spinmarket.com or 515-302-8026. Or visit our website at www.spinmarket.com.
All right, let's get into Cole's Corner.
Okay, it's St. Patty's Day.
Wear your green.
That I don't have on. I wanted to look. I was curious of what the S&P 500 historically has returned on St. Patrick's Day.
Ooh.
And pleasant surprise, actually. We were. I don't know what the market is right now. It was March. It's March 17th,
2026.
I don't know if it was up when we came into the show. Yeah, obviously recording. I'm not looking at my phone. But this is since 1950. So. Is it still green?
Yeah.
Okay, we're positive.
It makes sense for the holiday.
Yeah, green for the holiday, right? So S&P 500 since 1950. So what's the percentage of positive days versus negative days since 1950? Just throw a number out there. What do you think? Percentage?
80%.
65% of the time we're positive,
high.
right? So, but what was
That's
the returns are bigger than your average day. So on average, 65% of the time we're up. The returns are 0.3 to 0.4%. So almost up to 0.5%. That's the average since 1950, a positive. The typical daily return, if you just take, historically from 1950 is 0.04. Mm-hmm. So that's a significant, increase on the up days. Now, 65% historically, I think it's like in between 70 and 75% of the time we're positive over the year. So
you're telling me if I panic sold last week, I'm missing out on St. Patty's
Day. That classic, if you sold on Friday,
that's
right?
what I'm saying.
Friday was a negative day. We rallied hard Monday and we're rallying hard today. Now, I don't know who knows where we finish, but those are things really, and you're looking at now and you're still sitting on the sidelines. We're actually up. If you would have just, stayed in the market, you'd be higher than where you were.
Isn't it interesting too, now that you're saying this, the amount of people that take the market day by day or think about it day by day, because it's not, your money situation is not day by day.
Unless you're spending direct dollars out of that account that day, like that's the time. Now, obviously there's situations where people are they need more dollars on an ongoing basis, but you shouldn't be, that's where diversification matters.
Thank you. That's
right? Then it comes in. So, all right, I got one more.
All right, let's hear it. Cole's Corner's on fire.
So rating the nest egg. I just thought this was.
Hurt your stomach?
Yeah, kind of a sad, positive St. Patty's Day,
but
kind of a negative one. Yes, it does tie into the psychology of investing and things we're talking about. So in 2025, a record 6% of workers in Vanguard 401k plans took hardship distributions. The sixth straight annual increase up from a pre-pandemic average. So before the pandemic or for COVID, it was about 2%. So you think of that, we got a 200% increase. And this is generally hardship distributions historically are supposed to be used for, avoiding foreclosure or major medical expenses. There was a bill in 2018 that relaxed the rules a little bit to allow that. But, very scary. And I also think,
I think this is such a behavior thing though. And think how many people we've had to.
I think this is being manipulated too, unfortunately, from what I've seen. We run some 401k plans and we've seen some people that have got approved. We don't approve the hardship distributions. Nope. That's not our end. Generally the record keeper or the third party administrator goes through the employer.
We try to educate them on their options.
But we're seeing this in our plans used,
absolutely.
Which is,
we get a little notification.
Yeah, which is scary, but also we get it. That is your dollars there to use. But again, a lot of times,
does this not tie into what we're talking about though? Because behavior, right? Like I had a guy, he's like, well, I'm going to take a loan out of my 401k hardship. I'm like, why? He's like, I got to buy a car. I'm like, so I literally was like, let me just talk you through this kindly. I'm not even, because it's the shame of like, oh, I just got to pay for it. And I'm like, listen, just stop contributing for a few months. Why would you keep adding money to this 401k to withdraw some to pay for a loan? I was like, you make good money. This is how much you need to save. Pause the investing. It's just like, but my point is, it's the behavior of like the psychology, the shame, like of, I don't want to talk about it. I'm just going to take the 401k loan. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to ask the questions. I am where I'm at. So I'm just going to take the withdrawal. I think that, you know what I mean? I think a lot of people wouldn't need to take it if they came up with a different plan.
It's always, I always cringe when it's for like a purchase.
Yes, that's
right. That's like, and they're like, well, I have a car, but I really want this new car. And this is just some funds I want to redo something
in my house.
Yeah. And it's like, well, that's not really what this is designed for, and if you can't pay for it or get the means other than just your 401k, you probably shouldn't be doing it, or you need to make an adjustment to what you're doing.
And people are always like, well, why not take out? I'm like, you're stealing from your future self, the amount of compounding interest you're missing out on, because it's a behavior thing to like not repeat that habit, to save enough to
back
make
to the beginning, that 30 years in, right?
Yes.
Of hey, you took a distribution, now you've got
the timing of the distribution.
$10,000 less that's in the market for the next 20 years.
Oh, Cole's Corner, thank you for all that information. Look at you. I love Cole's Corner. All right. Another big psychology, and I think this is Allianz company we use, but they found this that more Americans fear running out of money in retirement than they fear death. So more people are worried about retiring and not having the money than they'd rather, fear death. Isn't that crazy?
I think that's completely true too.
It is.
Yeah.
The amount of stress people feel like, will I have enough health care costs? Should I retire? And
maybe a vulnerability thing too. A lot of people are going to be like, I'm really scared to die. You don't hear a lot of people say that. So.
But it's not just the numbers. It's like they need that confidence and clarity. And again, advocating for anyone to work with a financial advisor, not even just us, because that's where you're going to get that confidence and clarity. You're going to be able to run the numbers, the situations. Like our software is financial, they can plan for market downturns, big purchases. Like, again, I think it's just not talking about it, that fear of not understanding it. Well, how is this going to work? Because most people, right, they're used to getting a paycheck, right? So they have this cash flow. When you go to retire, it's like, well, how am I going to replace this cash flow correctly? Where that fear of like not understanding that kind of makes them more stressful. It is interesting.
That is a big event for people to realize, is when you go from not having a wage to now your assets need to produce your income.
Yes.
Right. It's because now you're not providing any,
you're relying on
like
the
work for service, right? Like you can, everyone knows that, hey, I go to work, I get paid hourly or salary, right? I get paid in return for my work. Yep. Now you're relying on, hey, I built this nest egg. That nest egg needs to produce, what my wage used to produce. And I think it's a hard thing because it's a little more unpredictable, or you have, fluctuations in your account values, right? So you're monetizing it. You can see it. It's visual. And a lot of times the saving stops, right? Once that saving stops and you start to you go from a accumulator to the distribution phase, and people need to have a solid plan to feel comfortable with that.
And I think also, here's the interesting too, is obviously your habits are developed over time, right? So it's always interesting to me, you go from saving money to spending it. So I feel sometimes like the people who could spend a little more, they're so used to saving, it's harder for them to like turn on the spending and enjoy it, because they have that fear like, well, if I start spending it, it's going to be gone. But they're not used to spending as much, where sometimes the opposite, people who've been spending and not saving enough, it's, you know what I mean? It's like a balance, it's a toggle. Here's my point, it's a behavior thing. This is behavior because it's the behavior of the habits you built towards this point.
Those are the easiest people to plan with, right? Because you're like,
spend the money.
We're telling them like, hey, you can retire. You don't need to wait, for X amount of years because you need to hit Medicare. Yeah. And it's like, those are the ones that, they're just naturally.
But it's the fear of spending.
Yep. And they're not going to change. Most of the time, those people don't really change much of their habits when they do retire. It's I'm always more concerned with someone that has a higher ongoing spend, when they're
maintaining the lifestyle.
Yeah, because and we talk about resilient, reliance rate a lot on people's assets, and that is what percentage of your, assets do you need to produce? So let's use $1 million and say you need, $60,000 a year from that million.
Used to living
that's 6%. That's very high reliance rate, meaning you can't handle as much fluctuation at
times. Because you're withdrawing the 6%.
You need to be more predictable. You better do a really good job of investing because that's pretty aggressive with distribution rate.
You also can see when you say that the visual, the bigger the nest egg, the easier to withdraw higher income. So if you're used to living off 100,000, 80,000, whatever it is, and yes, you have Social Security and all these things, but I'm just saying some people work, but again, different people, different situations, but you see people who are used to living off 100,000 a year. You're doing the math, aren't you? Are you getting your?
I was
getting his calculator out, Peter. It's very official today.
So if you quick math for people, right? Take your income rate or whatever income you want. So let's use $100,000.
Okay.
And you're like, hey, I want to be ultra conservative with my investments. So I'm
not in growth oriented.
I'm going to do a 3% distribution rate, which is very conservative. You'd take $100,000 divided by 3%. You would need if you have a long retirement, right?
Let's say 25, 30 years.
You would need to have about $3.3 million.
See?
At that point, you'd produce 100,000, no questions asked. You will probably not grow the 3.3, but you really won't see it decrease much. It'll kind of maintain. And then you just get more aggressive with that number. So say you want a 5% distribution rate.
Meaning you're taking 5% out of your little nest egg we got here.
Now you need 2 million, right? Because you're taking more out. You're probably going to be more sensitive to fluctuations. But again, you don't need as much, but you're being more aggressive. Your portfolio is going to have more growth oriented. The higher that percentage gets, the more you need to grow to maintain the assets.
And this ties into another level of fear of running out of money in retirement. People who can still handle the market fluctuations in retirement because they understand the market and they participate. So they're able to maintain a growth oriented account. They're like, hey, I'm retired, but I know how the market works. I have a bigger nest egg. I can handle swings a little more versus someone who's very reliant on the market swings who didn't maybe save enough so they can't handle those downturns. So it's very interesting.
I know a lot of people don't think this way or don't want it, but it actually is a benefit. I do think most people think they need to get more conservative than they do in retirement.
Because that's what we're taught.
Yeah, it is. It's like,
you hear it all the time.
Everyone asks, like, shouldn't I be? Yeah.
De-risk.
And to an extent, yes, there are times depending. And again, the bigger that reliance rate number is, the more sensitive we need to be to the investment allocations versus
just like cash flow.
Yep. It's one of those, but people do get that misconception a lot of times that, hey, you're defaulting to this age and now I need to be this conservative, but really there's abundance of other factors.
And this ties into the psychology of money, because certain people, you hear them like, they're like, oh, I lost all my money, or when I put it in the market and I told him I wasn't very comfortable with growth and he did moderate growth and I lost this much. I'm like, you lost because you sold.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And that's like understanding certain people, and you can't change some people. I've learned that. Like, I'm always like trying to educate people, like, nah, it'll come back. Like, be growth oriented. And you can't, because I don't know what their parents went through, how they lived, like people who you know what I mean? It's very based on the psychology of your life, is how you felt like when you first got into the market. Did you have a bad experience? Like, age of the market, when we're kind of lucky. It's been,
we have been very fortunate, right? We missed the great financial crisis, but we've seen COVID, seen different drawbacks.
But we see the comeback.
Yeah. I always, again, tell people on the down market side, we don't know when they're coming, but we do know they're coming.
But you can historically look at when the S&P has been
12 to 18
down,
months. If you can be patient, even through the worst cycles, maybe take the Great Depression off the table. There's periods where that throws off everything.
We're more advanced.
Yeah. But take that off the table. Any other, the tech bubble, the financial crisis, COVID, 12 to 18 months. If you could, I'm not saying you made all your money back, but you got to a point where you felt somewhat whole again. And when you are in those really down periods, if you're a person that's accumulating, by golly, you should be contributing more as much as you can at that time. Because if things are off 25, 30%, you're getting at a discount. If you're someone that's like, well, I still got 20 years to retirement, you shouldn't even be thinking about selling your assets.
That's what I mean. People who look at the market day by day, their life week by week, like even in retirement, we're not looking at just this year. We're looking at, however many years you've decided to retire. So again,
there's a psychology behind.
I love psychology.
Yeah, everyone doesn't know, this is like one of Bailey's favorite topics.
Behavioral finance.
Yeah, but there's something around that. And again, I've used this analogy so many times of the farmland versus your stock account.
Yep.
Right. You can look at that stock account, and every day I can hit refresh on my app and I see exact value. If I sold everything.
Those are my favorite clients. They check it every day.
Same thing with that farmland. it has a value every single day. There's a market value on there, but you don't really care. If you're a farmer or you're a landlord, you don't care because you're not selling the thing, right? But it is going up or down in value every day based on, prices and things that are selling for. You just aren't going to, hit a button and sell that farmland though. Such a difference, same concept, but different, right? And people psychologically look at it differently.
And nobody in the world is immune to what's going on in the world. So, you know what I mean? It's affecting everyone on some level. The people who understand it and take that shame away and can stay in, those are the people that are more successful. It is proven the people who stay in the market when there's downturns have a much more better outcome than the people who sell out. So why smart people make bad money decisions. And I think this kind of ties everything together. Emotions, definitely. I mean, not even financial, just think about an emotional situation you've ever been in. It overrides your logic. Like you're fighting with Luke Ashbrook about the dishwasher, how it's loading. All of a sudden your emotions, I'm just kidding. It's true though. Research from Morningstar suggests investors' timing decisions can reduce returns by around 1 to 2% per year. So again, if you're not looking logically at the market, not looking logically at your returns and your investment, and you get emotionally reactive and emotions win, you miss out on those returns. It's a behavior. It's panic selling. It's chasing high.
Especially if you're an equity investor, right? It's that, you can't miss. There's a handful of days that really matter in the market. And if you miss those, it drastically reduces your return.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing is no one has the crystal ball, right? It's perfect on when to get in or out, right? I think it's easy to get out. You can get out anytime. Yeah. I always think it's more difficult. When do you buy back in?
So I was just going to ask you this. How many people do you have that like, let's set some cash aside and let me know when it's a good time to get in? And it's the hardest because you're waiting for a little downturn. I'm like, well, it's not that down, but it's down. It just what you're saying, the amount of, or like, should I wait for this stock to go down? I'm like, I always want to be like, put it in and then put some more in when it goes down.
It's, again, situational for people that are needing income or different things there. But for the most part, we have a majority of our clients, I would say we're not doing any timing aspect. We're very consistent, systematic, type of
I'm thinking one of your clients.
Yeah. But we all have those people that we deal with that do want to jump in and out a little bit. And they might be calling a little bit more of their shots too at times. So, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. We always, the math says otherwise, right? The math stats will say it's better to write it out than it is to try to time.
And I think also, why emotions override it, it's also ignoring the financial problems until they appear. Like I can't stress that enough when we were talking about this in the whole episode, like having the conversation, putting the numbers out there, the debt numbers, where's the money, where's the money going? I would say that's probably the hardest emotional struggle for people to start is, where is my money going? Like where the heck, or do I need more income and how do I get, what I mean? It's that emotional behavior thing. But once you start putting the behavior in place in 10, 15, 30 years, it's insane what you can do with the power of the market.
That's why it's so hard though, too, is that you have to be willing to be patient for a long period of time. I know you were using the running analogy. You were talking how you were running and you're like,
I suck at it, guys. I'm slow.
So, and what are you training for? You're training for,
I don't want to say because I'm training for a half marathon.
Well, you've been telling people you're training. So,
well, that doesn't mean I'm okay.
Well, you're obviously training for something.
So Luke has been trained for running. I was like, I'll do one. My friend talked me into it. So I have been training and I hate it because I like to win. I like to be the best.
It seems like everyone who ever talks about running.
No, I hate it. I enjoy the running part. I hate how slow I am right now because I used to run when I was younger. I used to run. To me, I'm like, wow, I know I'm fastest, but here's my point. I have to be slow. I have to start slow because if I go out there and try to run like I'm 20, I can't do it, or like run like my friends who have been doing it. So I'm like, why would I stop just because I'm slower? So if I stop, I'd never get, same with net worth. Why would I stop working on my net worth and my investing situation just because Cole Jasky's ahead of me? And I think a lot of people, that's the emotional. They just get discouraged. They look at someone else, they compare the psychology, the behavior. So they just stop. It's easier to stop.
Do you wait for the right time to do a run, or do you do run consistently because that's the right thing to do? You're not trying to time your runs, are you?
No, but I do. And you're right. And I in the beginning, I am a perfectionist. So when I first started this whole thing, I was like, I gotta have the right shoe. And then I finally was like, Bill, you just gotta start running. You gotta start doing it. So now I've started doing it. So now it gets better though. Now I know how much I want to warm up, and you know what I mean? Same with investing. Just like I always tell people, just start and learn as you go. That's like anything in life,
That's interesting because it's such a you have those people this is kind of the opposite side, the people that do know everything but they don't take the action.
Yes.
That happens a lot.
That's
that would be the smart people, the smart people would be like, man, I know I'm not doing this right, I'm not doing this right, I should be contributing more here, should be paying this debt down, but they're not smart. Doing it all.
That's what I say. Most people are smart enough and that's why I always take that away
from
people.
They're aware enough.
Yes. And people, it's just like, just because you've talked about it doesn't mean you don't understand. It just means you've never dove into it. And you don't have to, like, I don't have to be the perfect runner to run. You know what I mean? You don't have to be the perfect investor. Just like athletes, consistency, discipline is way better than being motivated. Because trust me, I'm not motivated to run in the morning before the kids wake up. So what emotional mistakes do you think cost investors more over time?
I think quick and reactionary decisions.
Do you?
Yep. I think that's, I would say, and that's all tied to like that emotional snap, like reaction to something.
Instant gratification.
Yeah.
Instant decisions.
Yep. And this could be buying something, could be selling out of the market, could be upgrading houses when you don't need.
Or could it be hearing a crypto trend or some trend? Like how many times people are like, hey, have you heard about this stock? And I'm like, if you've heard about it, it's probably too late. But they gambling.
Many times I've had my normally it's like friends or family. They'll like, hey, what do you think of this?
Yes.
And I'm like, one, you're wasting my time, but
you finally dig at the family on
but
the pod.
Then I'm like, I'm always like, I always ask people like when they're doing these, the get rich quick things or the things that, and I'm not saying there's not good things outside of the traditional investment vehicle because there are.
But when you have that ability to take those risks,
I always ask someone this question: what amount of money, if you took $5,000 and bought it into the next best thing, what amount of money would that 5,000 have to grow to change what you're doing today?
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of times like, well, even if I made $25,000, I'm not going to do anything but continue to save. Right. But I'm also like, well, what if you lost that whole five? Like, are you going to be happier that you made 20,000 or you lost the 5,000?
Yeah.
Like, how mad are you in losing? And a lot of times people are like, oh yeah, you're right. I'd have to probably make like $1 million on this and maybe you can do that. But most of the times I'm like, no, I'm going to do all the exact same things. So I'm like, well, is the risk worth it?
Yes.
Like you got to make that decision. Maybe not.
It does for you.
Yeah. And sometimes there are, sometimes they're not. So
I'm learning everyone's different with the way their perspective on life and money. But I think building a healthier relationship with money and being successful financially really comes from perfect decisions. Like, I mean, you're most successful. You have a lot of entrepreneurs. You have a lot of high-end clients. Like, it's not because they made perfect decisions. It's because they were consistent. They developed habits. They had systems. Like, I think about people with systems, like how your financial situation is basically your systems. Like, how do you do
process,
money? Yes.
process oriented. They all kind of treated and most of them ran a business at some point. So they had processes in that business. They had processes, how they saved, how they invested. All those things are the, professionals they worked with. But probably the most, the biggest common factor is consistency.
Yeah.
They were very, very consistent in what they were doing.
And I think it's the automatic investing. So Peter, we were kind of talking about this, things you don't have to think about. It's tracking your spending. It's setting the long-term goals. It's focusing on progress.
I love that.
What? Progress over perfection?
Yeah, I think it's great.
I'm a perfectionist. The amount of things I don't do because I'm like, I got to do it perfectly. And now I've really learned like, it really feels more perfect once I get it and involve it the way I want it to anyways. Again, someone focusing on progress rather than perfection. Think of someone investing just $500 a month. That to some, that seems like a lot. 500 seems like a Lululemon trip for some a month. You know what I mean? But consistently, the compounding over that for 30 years, it's such a consistent, powerful little thing. And when you make it a habit, what a big difference that can make in the end.
The habits are what matters.
Exactly. Habits are what matter. So what's one small financial habit you would tell a listener right now will make the biggest long-term difference? One little habit. If someone's listening, you're going to be like, wow, in 30 years, Cole Jaskey impacted my life with that one little tip on a podcast.
I'll give two. I'm going to give, very situational, right? Everyone can make their own change but I think one, increasing your savings rate every single year. So whether it's 401k, doing 1%, even if it's 1% every year until you get to that max amount, I think that's something that anyone can do. You won't even really notice it in your in your paycheck. Number two, major purchases. Take 24 hours or 36 hours. Set some rule for yourself.
Absolutely.
That you're going to think through that, right? And give yourself that high, because you'll have the euphoria of like when you're about to make the purchase.
The dopamine hits
you're
high.
And you're like, you're not thinking about some of the negative sides. And then you'll go through and like, well, the insurance is going to be this much more. Now I got a doubled my car payment or whatever it might be, or doubled my house payment, or I'm paying more property taxes, whatever it is. Set some type of boundary where you're like, hey, if I make a purchase that's above X, Y, or Z dollar amount, I'm going to abide by the 36-hour rule.
And adding to that, that's why I don't leave my liquid funds available. Like I can't get to my
You have a little friction to get to the money?
It's got a little friction, whether it's in a money, you know what I mean? It's not just sitting in my checking where I could go write that
There's
check.
too many good salesmen out there and saleswomen out there in the world.
They get you. You got to remember, someone who's selling cars, they're so passionate about selling cars. And when you talk to them, you're like, oh yeah, they've sold like anything. Like I could talk to a gym instructor and they'd be like, this program. I'm like, yes, this is going to change
Sign me up. Sign me up.
But money touches almost every part of your life. So like little habits, consistency, not emotionally reacting, understanding your worth is not tied to your money. Your worth is who you are as a person. Don't compare to other people. Like all of these things really drive the success of financial stability. Honestly, anyone can do this. Like again, yes, do we want you to be knowledgeable about what you're investing in and all that and feel empowered? But just start. Like this is a behavior. This is emotions. Set yourself up, because everyone feels better when they know their future self is taken care of financially.
Success in investing doesn't correlate with IQ once you're above average. What you need is the temperament to control the urges that get other people into trouble. The great Warren Buffett.
You've been listening to How to Money with Cole and Bailey, the podcast of Full Swing Financial Planning. To learn more, visit their website at www.fullswingfinancial.com and follow them on Facebook and LinkedIn. Security and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor. Member FINRA, SIPC.